Hey there, welcome to Contracts and Chaos. My name's Alyssa.
And I'm Brenna, and we're here to tell you that you are not alone in the mayhem of this real estate industry.
We're keeping it real and sharing our stories, strategies, and successes in today's real estate world.
So come join us every Tuesday while we talk contracts and chaos.
So,
Oh my gosh. No, and we haven't even talked about it. Like, you haven't said anything to me about what happened in Atlanta or what you learned or any, like, oh, you should try this. So I'm freshly recapping with you. I'll take notes.
okay.
How's that?
Okay.
You talk, I'll take notes like I was there.
Okay, and feel free to ask me questions, kind of like when I interviewed you about how you handle summers with children. So I went to this event called Coffee and Collab. I run a Coffee and Collab event here, much different than this one. This was like, they brought in big names from out of town. My Coffee and Collab every week is like, hey, local agents, let's sit down and talk and maybe meet with an insurance agent or a broker or whoever. And this was awesome. They had three guests that they brought in for the day. We had Dustin Brohm. If you don't know who he is, he runs the Massive Agent podcast. He's out of Utah. Phenomenal. I've been following him for years. He is the reason that I drove 9-10 hours round trip to do this in a day. They had Ryan Zook. He's out of the Virginia area. I will tell you when we get to covering him, like what it was that reminded me of who he is. I didn't realize at first. And then Bob Tompkins, who's out of South Carolina. I think he's in the upstate area, somewhere between Columbia and Greenville. I've seen him.
Say he's not that far from us.
No, he's pretty close. And I was just going to say, I've seen him at some events in Charlotte. So I was like, okay, I'll get to see Bob again. But this was a whole day about how to boost your business, how to do, how they use different things. A lot of it about social media. So I thought it was important for us to recap this a bit because you can hear us say it all day, but sometimes it's like, and I equate this to when I see my friends and family trying to convince their husbands to do something. Like, you have to let them think it was their idea, or they need that third party to say the exact same thing for them to realize, for them to be like, oh, we should do this. And you're like, I've been telling you this for 6 months. What's different?
What a great idea you had.
Thank you for finally coming around to this. So, the first one, Dustin Brohm. I definitely fangirled a little in that room. I've been following Dustin for forever. I actually just looked into what his coaching is like because I'd be interested in doing that. He has a huge...
Is that the one you were talking about last week that does expireds?
Nope, different person.
Different one.
Different person.
Carry on.
Yeah, that's a guy within the firm. He... huge in social media, built most of his business on it. And when he left EXP, he had 700 and something agents in his downline. When he came to Real, within 4 months, he was making that amount, if not more, just by the difference in our platforms and things like that. He really pushes Reels. So we've been saying, do the social media. And the thing he reminded me of, and I feel like Brenna and I have probably both been caught in this at some point, is don't post realtor humor. I'm not talking to realtors to sell houses. Like, yes, there's networking. Yes, I want them to see my listings, things like that. But those reels, you need to talk to your ideal consumer. And you want to see what you want to show them what they want to see, not what you want to see. So those videos where it's like the dude making fun of the house, he's like, see this shithole for $500,000? It's a great house. And he's making fun of it and he's showing you what you want. He's selling houses doing that. So don't do the, when 3 realtors get together and this is blah, 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 blah. That's realtor humor. There's a difference. So you need to speak to your audience, the people you want to attract. And then he laid out 5 things to get hired because you want new people to notice you and then connect with you socially. So I always use the Kardashians as an example. As much as I dislike them and I see no value in them at all,
It's hilarious because you've literally talked about the Kardashians, I think, in like 4 episodes about how you don't like them, but how like this weird parasocial relationship that you're about to talk about.
But they are the perfect example of this. Or this week, right now, it's Olivia Culpo. Don't get me wrong, she's very nice. I've met her in person, but people are ripping her wedding apart, and now people know who she is because she tried and failed to build this parasocial relationship by posting all about her wedding. But the Kardashians are a classic example of this. They're everywhere, and they share things other than their lip gloss lines, or I don't even know what else they sell. Undergarments, all sorts of things, or their revenge bodies. Because right, I can't stand them. But even if you don't like them, even if you don't watch their show, I can guarantee you know something about one of them. Because they are everywhere, and they do share more than just their business. They show you a peek of their personal life. So you want to be visible, you want to be liked, you want to be trusted, you want to be credible, and you want to be remembered. And you do that with that parasocial relationship. So people will say, well, I don't want my kids on my Facebook. Okay, well, you don't have to post them. But you can post about what you're doing that day. Might be with your kids. Like if you're going to the zoo, post about the zoo and just don't put your kids in it. But if you're not sharing your life and your business, people are like, all she's doing is throwing real estate at me all day. No, like I talk about my cats. I talk about my dog. I talk about sometimes my niece and nephew, especially if we have goofy FaceTimes. If you're trying to...
I forget what it was the other day that I posted on Facebook. I don't think it was coffee. It was something silly like I picked up a coffee, and Travis like, you literally posted a picture of your coffee on your story. And I was like, yes, I did.
Yeah, it was a closing day latte.
I get one every time we... Yeah, it's like my special. I get one when we go under contract, and I get one when we close.
Right.
Because, I don't know. And I've started posting those. And he's just like, okay.
Right. No, I know another agent locally that I think it's every time they go under contract, she and her husband go get ice cream. So she posts their ice cream. Like,
nice.
And it's just one of those things. And it truly doesn't have to be real estate related. Like, I literally posted, so Oliver's been sick again. And I posted yesterday, I think it was, or Sunday, I don't know, about like, it's crazy how quickly my mood changed as soon as he meowed at me because dinner was late. Because if you know Oliver, like, he's very vocal, and I get yelled at every morning for breakfast and dinner. That was one of the reasons I knew he was sick last week. He wasn't talking. That got a ton of interaction, and like people talking about their pets, and so those are the things that create that relationship, which then plays with the algorithm and brings people back in to see the real estate stuff. And those are the things that make you liked and credible, because people know you're going to understand if they need to delay closing or can't make a showing because their dog's at the emergency vet. You're not gonna be like, well, like, no, I'm gonna be that pet friendly realtor. You're going to be the realtor that understands what it's like to have a hobby farm and kids, and like that leads people to trust you. So that was his big thing.
Yeah, because again, like, and I love that he said like you have to post for what you have to attract who you connect with. Like, if you speak to everybody, you're speaking to nobody, and you're going to connect with those people that like Starbucks every once in a while, that have cat, like all of those things that are just like they're subconscious connections that people make. And I think that I see real estate agents, and like you said, it's just sold, just listed, just sold, just listed, under contract, but that's all that there is. Like, and that they live a life outside of that. But I just like, they feel very unapproachable because it's business, 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 raking in the numbers. One of my best posts that I ever made on Facebook, and you remember this house, the one in Lincolnton that came back on the market 842
that popped up in my
times
memories
last
the other
year.
day.
Yeah, me too. I had a stroke when I saw it. But one of those posts, the second time it came back on the market, I posted it that it was back on the market. But it was like, listen, this isn't one of those stories where I'm going to tell you that we all lived happily ever after. Everybody got paid. They moved into the house and the seller's excited. Like, this is what happens in the middle. This is the messy middle that sometimes it doesn't just go as planned. And that post got so much interaction and shares even, and people messaging me about it because it's relatable. And people are like, wow.
Yeah, because
I appreciate that. Sometimes people appreciate the messy parts of life because it seems, we look through Instagram and TikTok or whatever, and everything seems so like shiny and perfect and great. And sometimes my favorite people to follow are the ones that are like, you like this background? Great. How about we look at this? And they flip it around and it's like the kitchen and everything's just destroyed. Those are my people.
Yes.
You know? And we appreciate them. So I think that it is very, but that's what people are going to remember too. That you are a real human that works hard, that takes care of their family, that loves animals. Like, those are the things that you're going to get remembered for. And I think that's what's important. That's what builds a longer lasting business, especially in these smaller little like neighborhood towns that we work in. I think that's what's important.
Absolutely. And like you said, in the smaller neighborhood towns, like, people need to know that we're one of them. Like, we live here. So like, you'll see me post, I do a big push on like what's happening in my community, what I'm doing in my community. So that people know I eat, sleep, live, party here too. Like, I want them to think of me as their neighbor.
I love that. Eat, sleep, party.
Eat, sleep, and party. The other thing, one point he made was like, that I thought was interesting, was when you're doing the covers for these, you can choose a cover and you can upload one. So like, he's like, he often uses a screenshot and then puts a visual hook on there. So that's like where he'll put the phrase something like, I'm trying to find an example. And I took a picture of it. 10 things I've gained from whatever. 10 things I've gained from using social media in my real estate business. If that's what, if you're trying to coach, or you could do 3 things I always do when talking to new buyers, and put it visually as the cover. So then if people are scrolling your feed and not their FYP or whatever Instagram calls it, they'll be like, oh, I want to look at that. And then they'll open that reel. But then that should also be the opening to your reel. You need a hook within the first 1 to 3 seconds of 3 things I recommend when staging your home for selling. Boom, there's the hook. Then you can talk about something. And if you want them to watch the whole thing, those 3 things are at the end or wherever you feel like putting it in. But those hooks are what pull people in to that reel. I need to get better about that.
I'm the worst. That's something I got to get better at, is doing the cover photo. I never do. And then when I'm scrolling back through, because my flow desk, I can add my Instagram feed into the bottom of the email. So it's just like the last 3 posts. And then it pulls it up and I'm like, those are great informational videos, but gosh, those screen grabs are terrible, you know? And that's just, I mean, it would take 20 more seconds and I just don't do it. So
I always pick one where I'm like making a funny face and there's a word that I think will be attractive. And I'm like, no, we can still pull the funny face.
That's good enough.
But we need to, I'm going to start putting the hooks on there. And I need to start opening with a verbal hook. He leaned into, now he didn't call it this, but for your stories, you should be leaning into what's happening around you, the like local events, things like that, local news. And he said cool shit you come across. So my clients the other day, I don't remember where we were, but I took a picture of something and she's like, we always find the weirdest things when we're on showings with you. You always take a picture and post it. I'm like, yeah, because I see weird shit. And someone messaged me the other day. They're like, I can't imagine the shit you see that you don't post. And I was like, oh, Lord, trust me.
Yeah, right.
There's some shit.
Did you see that giant painting of Grandpa in the bathtub that I shared?
No.
Oh my
God,
it
please
was
text
life
that to me.
size. Alyssa, I made a reel about it because we're like walking through this vacant house, and in the closet there, like, you know those wire rack shelves in closets? It was so tall it was leaning up against that. Okay, it is a massive painting of Grandpa in a bathtub waving. right? Naked grandpa in a
That's
bathtub.
so fucked
Waiting.
up.
So I take a video of me like slowly walking into the closet, and then I like put my hand in front of the camera and like wave back to grandpa. And then you like zoom in because there's this tiny little sticky note that says stays on it. You can keep the giant grandpa painting.
Tell me your clients bought this house because now I want to get the painting from them. Like, I'm just gonna put it in if I ever have an office, I'm hanging that painting in the office. That is
It was great.
Who would want to keep a picture?
I'll tag you in it. Hilarious. It just stays. A completely empty house and this giant painting that apparently they didn't want either.
Oh my god.
Hilarious.
Oh my god.
It's good. It's fun. But no, people love that. And people are nosy and they can't even help it, right? So so tomorrow I'm going to have so many stories posted. I might have to like break them up to like use them throughout a couple of days. I have 17 showings tomorrow.
With one client? With how many clients? Okay. That makes me feel better.
And 2 are flying in from out of state tonight.
Oh my.
Yeah, so, and I leave at 3 a.m. on Friday.
Yeah.
So I'm like, we have to see these houses on Wednesday. That's why I texted you about recording, because I was like, listen, I have a billion houses to see. Not a billion, but it seems like it, you know?
And I don't remember why.
But,
anyway, so yes, use your, your reel. Your reels are going to be more of that, like, real estate information. Mm-hmm. And yes, put some personal stuff in there. I do sometimes. But then your stories are where it's what's happening in the neighborhood. Be, what is it, the mayor of your city or 5 Mile famous, whatever those phrases are. That's where you should. Now, I also think you should put those in reels. But for quick snippets of, like, what you're doing or to draw attention to reels, put those in stories. Because people tend to look there first. I
and
think.
You can location tag those too. And with us, I mean, if you don't have a public profile, you should have a public profile. But if you're tagging locations and your profile is public, you will still pop up in other people's like story feeds too.
Right.
You know, so I think that geotagging things like that is so important.
Yes, even if it's like a picture of my cat, I still geotag it because who knows? Or if it's a picture of my car doing, like, it's not an event, I still geotag because it will pull, and that's important. And I'm going to get on a high horse here. If your profile's not public, you shouldn't even have a profile. I'm just going to say it. And if you're trying to have, I don't remember if it was Dustin, I think it was Dustin that said this. If you have a business Instagram and a personal Instagram, turn them into one. Why are you trying to handle 2? You haven't been successful at 2. Or at 1, why are you trying to handle a second one? Make it 1. And if you're back to well, I don't want everyone to see my kids. Okay, then don't post them. Or post them strategically. But your profile should be public, and it should be a mix of business and pleasure.
Yep.
Off my head. Oh, and pay for the blue check. Just pay for it. For 2 reasons.
It's like, what, $12?
$15 a month for each, I think.
Sounds silly.
1, a lot of people don't realize that you can pay for it, so they think you're far more famous than you really are. It gives you that credibility. Like, let's just be honest about it. That's what it is. 2, it's an insurance policy, in my opinion, because adding that blue check adds so many layers of security to my profile. I can't even click on my profile picture to see my profile picture because it adds that level of security. Like, if I want to change my profile picture, I have to send them a picture of my license.
It's an act of Congress.
Yeah.
To change your profile picture.
And I need to do it soon. And I'm like, hey. But I wish you could see what I'm seeing right now. But get the blue check. It's worth it. Because I've seen different creators lose everything because someone hacked their profile. And just get the blue check. It's a business expense. It's a write-off. But, okay, so finishing with Dustin so we can get to the others because I've spent 20 minutes talking about him. How to double your views. Your first story of the day should be asking a question or having a poll in it. One of those things for people to click on and interact. That will help double your story views. I've done it here and there. It does seem to give me a little uptick. I think if I did what he said next, I would be more successful. But consistency and time is the only thing keeping you from the business you want. And Brenna and I are focusing kind of on that this week. We've started an accountability with each other with our new 12-week year to make sure we are being consistent. We are being held accountable. But just be consistent. If you have, even just say, hey, I'm going to post 3 stories a day. That is my consistency for this week. That's all I can be accountable for. Okay, do that. And then when you get comfortable where that's second nature, okay, then bump up to whatever your next, like I'm going to post 3 reels a week. Okay, like, but just build that consistency. So the next one is Ryan Zook. He is also with Reel. He's out of the Virginia, like the DC area of Virginia. His thing was how to get new agents business quickly. One of his is 30 coffees in 30 days. Even if it's your mom and dad, take them out. They're going to ask you how things are going. It's going to, like, even if it's friends, family, reinvigorate the thought that you're a realtor. This is the business you're in. But 30 coffees. And he said sometimes it might take people 30 coffees in 60 days because they're not committed to doing it every day. But he was like, a cup of coffee isn't that expensive. Right. And it'll force you to have conversations. And it's a great way. I loved it. Even if you're not a new agent, a great way to reconnect with people you haven't seen or spoken to in a while. Be like, hey, like I've got some free time Friday. You want to go grab a cup of coffee? I haven't seen you in forever. And you don't even have to talk. Like it's going to remind them of you. He also believes in the CMA per day. So whether it's going through your database, if you have people in there and sending CMAs, whether it's maybe going through your neighborhood, like if you're, actually I need to propose this to Aaron. If you're in a neighborhood and you want to be known as the neighborhood agent, start sending your neighbors CMAs and just be like, hey, no pressure, not asking you to buy or sell anything. But I always lean on, for insurance purposes, you should probably know the updated value of your home. Here's some information. And
that's a good line, right? Though, too. You know what I mean?
But it's because I remember I actually need to call my insurance agent and do mine. Like when I got insurance, one of my friends is my agent, and he was like, hey, like just remember to update the contents coverage because right now you're a first-time homeowner with nothing. In a couple of years, you're going to be a first-time homeowner with a bunch of shit to replace. And so he was like, make sure you keep that updated. He also wants you to become an expert. So, like, know the numbers that are driving business in your area. Know what the average...
This is so important. We've talked about this 16 times about being like in your super hyper local spot. Like Microsoft right now is building a multi-billion-dollar facility in Conover.
Yep.
Right now. So they're creating, I forget how many hundred, I think it's 600 jobs.
Yeah.
Guess who's going to be moving to Catawba County? A lot of people.
Yep. Or like I did, there's a quarry. They want to put in a quarry for lithium here. And so I did a reel about that, like after I visited the the proposed quarry area with those people. But even just know like the current appreciation. Like, okay, 2021, it was super huge. And a lot of sellers think it's still that. And let's be honest, it's not. So talk about that. Like, make sure you know when they ask, what's the average appreciation in this area right now? What's your federal funds rate? What, how does that affect mortgages? What's the current inventory, days on, things like that. You should probably have somewhat of an idea. Like, I get an alert every day. Every week. I got it this morning. I set up with the local newspaper. Unemployment filing has gone down for the 3rd week in a row in Gaston County. That's awesome.
Nice.
That means, things are getting better. He's very big on calls. Not necessarily cold calling, asking if you want to buy or sell, but calling your database and calling your sphere. So he calls 2 letters a week. If you do that, that should be between 2 and 4 touches a year, depending on, some people do it a month, some people do it a week. But just call and talk to your people. That's a great way to get your 30 coffees in 30 days too. Call those people, see if they want to get coffee, see if they, maybe want to go to the driving range or whatever it is you used to. Be like, hey, I haven't seen you forever. You want to go do this real quick? just talk to them.
Yeah, a softer version of that too, without like if you and especially if you don't have like phone numbers for those people, send them a video on Facebook Messenger. Yep. A quick like, hey sister,
right?
How's your week?
Yes, very much so.
We got 62 days until the kids go back to school. You think we can make it?
Are you surviving? I'm not.
Are you okay? But no, like it doesn't have to be a, hi, it's Brenna. What are you doing?
Right, exactly.
It doesn't have to be awkward.
Or another great way.
I mean, I'm a little awkward anyways, so I think people expect it when I'm just like, what's up? I haven't talked to you in like 3 weeks.
Right. Or like
how you doing?
If you're a parent, like especially in the summer, and coffee, because you got to figure out how to wrangle kids at coffee. Okay, hey, want to go to the splash pad? Hey, want to meet at the playground or at, this local free thing for kids? Let's do it. Want to go fly kites in the park? I'll bring the kites. Like that 30 coffees in 30 days could be whatever works for you at your stage in your life and career. He also said blame it on your coach. So like if people say, why'd you send me a CMA? Or you call them and ask and just be like, hey, my coach is pushing me to do this to build my business. So there's no pressure on you. I'm just trying to get comfortable having these conversations. Blame it on them. Then it shows that even if you don't have a coach, hey, I'm getting professional guidance. I am making sure that I'm stepping into this business with guidance and a mentor to help me do this correctly to be successful. So when they are ready, they're like, this guy had a coach. Like, we're going to use him. Like, we know. His big thing is events. And this is where I remembered him from. I listened to him on someone else's podcast. It may have been Dustin's. I don't remember. He accidentally threw a giant country concert one year. There's like some country artist from their town who he's not like a Tim McGraw or anything. I'd say he's like a B-list country artist who happened to hit it really big as he was planning this event, I think is how the story goes. And it turned into this huge thing, and they donate all of the proceeds, I think it is, to juvenile diabetes because their son is diabetic.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and so it picked up a bunch of. Now, don't feel like you have to go because he's like, I wrote a 6-figure check for this event because all of a sudden it blew up. You don't need to do that big, but you could have like a family bowling day, like. In this heat, I think that's a great idea. I was thinking of doing an end of the year barbecue, but now I'm like, I might do an August bowling event because it's so freaking hot. Yep. No one wants to stand outside around a barbecue. But do some type of something to appreciate your clients, your VIPs. Brenna, like you are focusing on your top 100, which is the people who support your business, and those are people, like you said, who are sharing your posts, who are sending you the referrals. So it doesn't have to just be clients, but show them a little love. Do some, like if you, like Brenna, you did Mother's Day photos. Some people do Christmas photos.
That's the second year I've done, and they've been so great, and I will continue to do them because that's something that I'm excited about, and they've been a big hit. Another thing coming up this time of year, like you could always do a back to school supply drive. Like that's something fun to get your community involved in. They can drop off, one notebook and a set of pencils from the dollar store. But everybody likes to feel like they're a part of something. I think that's easy. The bowling's a great idea. Rent out the bowling alley for an afternoon even just like on a weird
5
day.
lanes. Yeah, like on a Wednesday. Like you don't have to take over the whole thing, but it gets your people out of the heat. Quick tip about your school drive. Okay. Call the school first and see what they actually want.
Oh, yeah.
Don't just...
I already talked to the principal.
Yeah.
We besties.
Right? Because that's the one thing a principal said to me. She's like, those are great, but we get a bunch of shit we don't want or need. Please ask us first. And the other thing, ninja tip on that, put a QR code where they can just order on Amazon and have it delivered to the school. Yeah. You don't even have to run around.
That's the best thing. We did that for teacher appreciation this week. The PTO did. We just did like a QR code to an Amazon wish list of, I forget, we were doing a trail mix bar. Like, here's what we want. And people just like ordered it, brought it by the office, it showed up at the office, those kinds of things. The easier you make it for people, the more they will participate. Yeah, and we are lazy.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And by we, I do indeed mean me. Yes, I will support you if I don't have to get off my couch. Right. Do I have to get up?
So the other thing he does, and he does this annually, and it started because like photography is a hobby for him, so he didn't have to hire a photographer.
Oh, cool.
But he does annual family photos, and I think he said he does them in like October, so people can use them for their Christmas cards if they want. But he does it for his clients. He does it for his VIPs, his top 100, and just kind of does a sign up. And then there's one day, and he does them, edits them, and sends them back out. I think it's a great idea. I really want to do this. I'm going to ask my photographer to just set up, like, I don't want to run around to everyone, but I'm going to do, like, everyone has the same background. Come here, you have a 15-minute slot. Boom, you're done. And I'll pay her by the hour or whatever it is. I think I'm going to do that for Christmas this year and do it in, like, October. So his was a lot of, like, in with people, not as much social media, which I'm sure he still does it. But his is all of the nurturing, the in-person things we've been talking to you guys about since we started this podcast.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And he was really great. Again, that's Ryan Zook. He's out of Virginia, so look him up. His big thing right now is his son is playing travel baseball, and he's all over the East Coast for baseball tournaments. And this man sells a lot of real estate, y'all.
So it was totally worth a trip to Atlanta. We got some good
Totally
nuggets.
worth. And I got to meet got to meet some agents. Yeah, so guys, to put this into perspective, my alarm went off at 2 a.m. that morning. I was out the door by 4:15, and I got home at I think 8:30 or 9 o'clock that night, maybe a little earlier.
Yep.
And absolutely worth it. Absolutely worth the exhaustion the next day. Got to meet some really cool presenters, and then also got to meet some cool agents who, like, I had never met in person before. Like, Lorraine Danielson was there. I talk to her all the time, but I'd never met her in person, and so it was really cool to meet other agents in different areas. Yeah, it was good. It was really good. Definitely follow them on social media. They are all great resources to follow for tips and advice on how they're doing their business. Even if you're just copying and repeating, like, do what they're doing. Otherwise, we will see you next week.
We just finished another episode of Contracts and Chaos, but believe me, the chaos does not stop here. So check out the show notes for our email address and where to follow us on socials, and we will see you next week.